This is going to be a valuable training, not only for agents, but also for anybody that's looking to build their own real estate portfolio. But this is definitely something that agents should understand at least a basic level. At the end of this, we're going to share some information where you're going to have links to the calculators for all of this. We're going to give you some form fill stuff that if you want to evaluate your own properties and run your own numbers, you can. What I would recommend is evaluate just kind of some random properties to get the feel for how these calculators work, to get the feel for the numbers, because it's going to take some time for your mind to kind of wrap around some of these numbers, or at least for some people it will. But the title is Evaluating Rental Properties. The numbers don't lie. The reason we say the numbers don't lie is because people lie. What people tend to do when evaluating rental investments is they fudge their own numbers. They say, oh, well, this property could make, this much more. So they, or my losses will be this much less, right? So they lie to themselves, and they get themselves in a situation where, it's not the numbers, it's the people. So when we evaluate rental properties, we're dealing strictly with logic. There is no emotion involved, right? Logically, we're going to look at the numbers, and we're going to run conservative numbers, right? We're not going to run best case scenario. We're going to run worst case scenario, because it's better to be pleasantly surprised than unpleasantly surprised. Yes or yes? That answer is yes. So real quick, who am I and who am I not? Right? I'm a real estate broker. I own my own rental residential real estate. I own a property management company. In my real estate company, the agents on my team, we assist investors that are customers of ours in running these numbers and going through this process to finding the property that's going to give them the highest likelihood of creating income. But I am not an accountant. I am not an attorney. I am not a financial advisor. I am only a real estate broker and property manager, right? So everything that I'm sharing with you, I just want you to know, I don't have formal training in accounting. I don't have a bar license. I'm a real estate broker. I have a real estate license, and we manage residential real estate. This is the way that I run my business. These are the numbers that I use for my business. This is the stuff that I've learned along the way while investing in real estate. But I'm not an accountant. So if there is anything in here related to taxes, and there will be, I encourage you to go talk to your tax advisor. If there's anything in here related to a legal issue, I encourage you to speak to an attorney. So speak with the appropriate professional based on what you hear here. And if you're going to share this with the customer, make sure that they also understand, if you're not an accountant, that you are not an accountant. So what is involved in evaluating rental properties, right? So we're going to look at different factors of the property, right? We're going to look at things such as the location. We're going to look at potential rent income, and there's going to be a formula that we're going to cover that. We're going to look at the expenses of the property, right? We're going to analyze the property condition. Now, we're not going to talk about property condition in this training, but that has to be a factor involved when you're analyzing a property, because the customer might get a really good deal on a property, but it could have also been slummed out, right? You could be dealing with the property that you look at it, you say, wow, this is a great location, and this is a great building, and it has so much potential. But there's so much deferred maintenance on this property that the maintenance just to catch it up needs to be considered. $350,000, but you can plan on putting $50,000 into it the first year. That's probably more like $400,000. Yes or yes, right? We're looking at market trends, because we want to determine the profitability for the property, right? And if over time that's an area that's appreciating, or that's an area that's not that's not moving up in value. So one last disclaimer before I go to the next slide. This is a slide all about numbers. If you don't like numbers, you might be kind of bored, right? I hope to teach you something here. I try to make things fun and exciting, but there's some things that just cannot be made fun and exciting. And for me, one of those things is numbers. Numbers do not excite me when, I mean, obviously I like to look at numbers in my bank account, the more zeros at the end of it, right? But, when it comes to accounting and it comes to QuickBooks and all that, my accountant will tell you there's nothing that melts my mind more than numbers. So if you don't like numbers, this might be boring, but just stick with me. You will learn something, I give you my word. Right. So when we're speaking with our customers or we're thinking about our own situation, we might wonder, well, why should I invest in real estate? Why would I even consider investing in real estate? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are a lot of reasons to invest in real estate. Most politicians invest in real estate. Most business people invest in real estate, or many business people. I don't know about most, but there are a lot of politicians and a lot of business people investing in real estate. There's a lot of very big corporations that own portfolios of real estate. Why does that matter? Because these are the people who make the laws, or they lobby for the laws. So if politicians are investing in real estate, we all know that politicians are always honest and they can always be trusted, right? So is it safe to assume that if a politician is investing in real estate, they've skewed some tax laws to benefit real estate investments? Is it safe to say that if these giant hedge fund corporations that are, up in the Northeast or even in Palm Beach County here have large portfolios of real estate that also have lobbyists on staff, that they're lobbying for some tax advantages? I think yes. Right? So there's a lot of tax advantages to investing in residential real estate. And if you own it the right way in an LLC or maybe a corporation, you're going to have even more tax advantages. And now you're also a business owner. And now you can start building your business tax, which we talked about in a previous training. Right? So there's a lot of tax advantages. It doesn't end with just income and expenses. Right? There's things like depreciation. There's a lot of things to consider. Right? You're going to increase your net worth with equity. Over time, I believe that real estate always goes up. Does it also go down over time? Yes. But if you look at real estate over a long enough period of time, I believe real estate always goes up in value, because the dollar and inflation, the dollar is always losing value. They're printing more dollars, right? So the real estate, you can only make so much. They're not making more land. They're making more dollars. More dollars, same land, equals the land to dollar ratio, the value goes up. Is it going to have dips and, dives and crashes and all of that? Probably yes. But over time, you hang on to it. You don't sell it. You don't panic sell. You don't lose money until you sell. You hang on to it. It's going to go up in value. Passive income is, for me, one of the number one reasons that you would invest in real estate, because as real estate professionals, number one, most of us don't have a 401k that our company is, matching for our retirement. So we need a retirement. Well, shouldn't a real estate professional find their retirement in real estate? Right? So that someday, whether we wake up in the morning to go to work or not, we know that income is going to be there. That's what passive income is. Passive income means that you don't have to show up and go clock in. You don't have to go show houses. You don't have to write contracts. You know that at the first or whatever day of the month your lease says, you're going to receive that income. Right? And the earlier you start, the more properties you accumulate, the more passive income you're going to have. Right? You get past that stabilization period, and now you have a positive cash flow every month. Maybe it's only $300. That's okay. That's $3,600 extra per year that you have. Right? Maybe you put it into another one that produces you another $300. Right? That's $7,200 a year now. Right? Now you put that into another one that makes you another, $500. Right? It stacks. You need to stack your passive income, and that's how you get comfortable, especially in a volatile income like we have in real estate. We have big highs and big lows. We have months where we cash huge checks and where we go through, well, there's an inappropriate term I won't say because I don't know who's on here necessarily, but I'm rich, right? And then we go to Disney and, we pay for all of the upgrades and we go and whatever. And then a couple months later, business slows down because maybe we took our foot off the gas and all of a sudden we're not so rich, right? When you have passive income, no matter what kind of month you have in sales, no matter what kind of month you have in anything, in your health, maybe you work less because you're less healthy, you're going to be able to count on that passive income. Assuming you do what we talk about here. And at the end of this, we're also going to talk about screening tenants. And I'm going to tell you my process for screening tenants. Another reason, generational wealth. You want to leave something to your kids, right? Most parents want their kids to have a better life than they have. Well, this is how you can do that for them. You can pass down real estate that's going to give them tax advantages, it's going to increase their net worth with equity, and it's going to give them passive income. Right? Don't we all wish our parents did more of that for us? I know I do, right? Wouldn't that be nice? All right. So these are 4 reasons. I'm sure there's more. Put some in the comments if you know more reasons why we should invest in real estate. But these are 4 really good reasons, and my top 4 reasons why literally everybody, after you've bought your own home, or maybe you house hack, which we did a training on that as well, you go and you buy investment real estate. So let's talk about some terms and abbreviations, some of the things that we're going to be talking about throughout here. We're going to start with our first term. It's an acronym, FEVER, right? So we broke FEVER up into 3 different things, right? These are numbers for real estate. You have your fixed expenses, taxes, insurance, right? Mortgage is not a fixed expense, right? Because that can fluctuate. Principal and interest could be, right? You can put that in there. Variable expenses, maintenance and utilities. You can count on those changing regularly every month, right? Maybe your lawn bill stays the same, but if you pay common electric, right? If you have to replace a refrigerator, you're not doing that every month, so that's going to change, right? So you have fixed expenses, variable expenses, and then reserves and replacement. Because things are going to go wrong with your property, you do need reserves so that when it comes time to replace these mechanical items in your property, you have the money set aside and it's not an emergency. This is your emergency fund, but this is when you have an emergency fund, then your emergency is no longer an emergency. Because we know sooner or later that roof is going to fail. Don't all roofs fail? There's no roof that lasts forever. We know sooner or later air conditioner is going to have a problem. We're coming into summer months, and I can tell you as a property manager, every single week, probably every other day or every 3rd day, we get a call about an air conditioner. Right? There's just always issues. People crank them, right? So you're going to have air conditioner problems. Sooner or later, you fix it as long as you can, but sooner or later you're going to have to replace that, right? So you're setting aside reserves for your large items, right? We're going to go through a formula, right? Let's talk about the formula. So again, we're going to have a downloadable for this. This is a difficult formula to share in a training, but this is how you're going to run numbers. So we're giving you the formula right now for how, when you're analyzing a property, the numbers that you're going to use, the numbers to pay attention to, and then after that we're going to talk about there's one more formula, and then we're going to talk about some ratios that you can be looking at as well. So the formula is called the stack. I didn't invent this formula, but I learned this very early in my career. I learned it after I started investing in rental properties for myself. And this is the first half of the stack. So the first number that we want to talk about is PGI, potential gross income. That's a simple number, right? Monthly rent times 12 months is how much? You make $1,000 a month. You have 1 unit, $1,000 a month, 12 months, that's $12,000. And make sure when you're doing these, you're either looking at this monthly or annually. Don't mix month and annual. Your numbers will be all messed up. So decide right now, Am I looking at annual or monthly? For me, I look at annual, because monthly is, I don't know, things change, right? It's easier to look at things in a big picture. You could always take your final numbers divided by 12, and then it gives you the monthly number. If you do monthly, you can multiply by 12, I think, right? PGI, potential gross income. That's gross income. If you were to collect 100% of the potential, now this is potential. This is not current gross income. Because do we look for undervalued properties because they're collecting below market rents? Yes, of course we do. Right? Just because you buy a property that's making $1,200 a month doesn't mean that that property is living up to its truest potential. Are there a lot of self-managing owners that charge below market rent? Yes, absolutely, 100%, because they don't know how to increase rents on a regular basis, right? So we're running numbers based on potential gross income, not current gross income. If it's renting for $1,000 a month, you could run that formula, and you could use that as a negotiating tool on your side. But also know that the owner, that renter's been in there for 25 years. The owner hasn't raised the rent, for the last 9 years, and then it really could rent for $1,500 a month. Vacancy and collection, VNC. You have to subtract for vacancies. No property is always 100% rented, right? At some point, you're going to have a vacancy. And if you don't have a vacancy, if you have a tenant in your property that's there for 10 years and you have no vacancies over the next 10 years, it might be because you're not increasing rents enough. At some point, you need a vacancy, right? At some point, you need some time to get that tenant out of there, to take a little bit of time inside that property yourself and do some of those repairs, do some of those upgrades, and do things to keep that property in a fair condition. I'm not saying you want a vacancy every year. You don't. You lose money on a vacancy. You lose the time that it sits empty. You lose any marketing expenses. You lose any fees that you have to pay for it, right? You lose money because you're still paying all your carrying costs. But vacancy and collection definitely needs to be a factor. We factor out hours at about 6%, right? But that's going to be your own number, right? Other income. What's other income? Laundry machines, vending machines, anything that creates income for the property that is not related to your rental income, right? Selling Girl Scout cookies in the front, I don't know, right? Any income. Usually it's vending machines, usually it's laundry machines, some type of machine, right? So when you take your potential gross income and you subtract your vacancy and collections and you add in your other income, you're going to come up with your effective gross income, EGI. Right? So this is your gross income, this is your effective gross income. Right? What's the next part of the formula? So you take your effective gross income and you subtract your operating expenses. Right? You're going to subtract anything that it costs you to operate that property. Right? So that's going to be your lawn maintenance, you have management fees, right? Whatever it is, whatever your operating expenses are, you are now taking those out of there. And once you take out your operating expenses, you're going to get the most important number, or one of the most important numbers in the stack. And that's your NOI, right? We hear a lot about NOI, net operating income. So this is a really important number. This number is going to float over into some of our other equations, because your NOI is really kind of where it ends, right? This is the income that you have, basically your income minus your primary expenses. If somebody were paying cash, this is it, right? So now you have your net operating income. Next slide, please. once you get to your net operating income, if you have a mortgage, you have to subtract your annual debt service, principal and interest, right? Those have to come off. You have to take those numbers off. Those, they have to be in consideration. But understand that annual debt service comes after NOI, right? So when we're looking at net operating income, we're not including annual debt service. Now, that is income that comes off of that property, right? Or that's an expense that comes off of that property. But that does not calculate into NOI. And that's a very big distinction to draw. So make sure you understand that, right? So when you take your net operating income, you subtract your annual debt service. What does it cost for you to carry that mortgage? That's your before tax cash flow, right? We hear cash flow, right? NOI could also be your cash flow, right? That's another term, for cash flow. Before tax cash flow. Subtract your federal income tax, which is also not part of your formula to come up with your NOI, and that's going to give you your after-tax cash flow. This is the stat. These are your numbers. These are the numbers that you need to know: front, back, top, bottom, in, out. This is what you're going to, these are the numbers when you're working with the customer and they say, what is the net operating income? Now you don't have to say, I don't know. Let me figure it out, right? Here's my formula. How do I come up with it? Gross income minus vacancy and collections plus your other income. That's your effective gross income minus operating expenses. That's your NOI, right? I want to say it's simple, but it's not. Again, we're going to have a printable form for this. And we'll also have a calculator that we're going to share with you as well, where all you have to do is fill in these numbers and it's going to do all of these formulas for you automatically. And you can move numbers around and figure out different things. So once we know the stack, once we know how to figure out NOI, we can go on and do some other computations, right? Keeping in mind, NOI for most of these computations is going to be your most important number that you need to know how to get to, in my opinion. Again, I'm not an accountant. An accountant might tell you something different, right? They probably want to know how much you should pay in taxes, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Next slide. Computations, calculations, right? What are we looking at? So we just talked about the stack. Now we're going to talk about IRV. IRV. This is super important because do people ever talk about the cap rate? I think it might be capitalization rate. But do people talk about the cap rate? Well, sure they do. Let me see something. Yeah, they talk about the cap rate. What's the cap rate on a property? Right? What is the cap rate on a property? Well, this is how you figure it out. This is the formula for figuring out what a cap rate is. So IRV, income rate value. So you see the triangle, and then you see the whatever those things are, the math signs that go in between there. And when you do one or the other, it's going to give you the other. So starting from the top, your net operating income divided by your value is how you get the cap rate, right? So you can play around with your numbers, right? Value is what? Value can be value, which would be the value of the property, but it can also be price. When somebody comes to you and they say, I want to buy a property with, an 8 cap. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Well, you're going to adjust the NOI divided by whatever price you need to get to reach that cap rate. Or if you already know the NOI, you divide your NOI by their cap rate. So they want an 8 cap. NOI divided by cap is going to tell you exactly what the price of that property you should pay in order to achieve that cap rate. Keep in mind, the cap rate does not include your annual debt service. It doesn't include a mortgage. Make sure that they understand that, right? Because not everybody understands. Usually people just throw this term around. I need a 12 cap. Okay, well, what does that mean? I don't know. Well, NOI divided by value is your rate, right? You want to figure out what the NOI on that property will be, right? That's your rate times the value. 8 times the value, that should be your NOI, right? Your income. Pretty simple, I think, as long as you understand how we're getting these numbers. Ratios. What are some important ratios that we should know? Well, your vacancy ratio, right? What percentage of your income is accounted for with your vacancy? PGI divided by vacancy and collection, right? So your potential gross income divided by your vacancy amount, that's going to tell you the percentage of income that you lost, right? Or how that compares to your total income. Operating ratio, effective gross income divided by your operating expenses. So that tells you what percentage of your effective gross income are you using towards operating expenses, right? Debt service ratio, net operating income divided by annual debt service. What percentage of your net operating income, and you can flip these numbers, I believe, and they're going to come out the same, but what you don't want is for your debt service to be higher than your income, right? You don't want your debt service to be higher than your net operating income, because now you're running at a negative, unless you're the type of person that likes trophy properties, right? You want that property that's in, that great location, and you don't, some people don't care about the numbers. They just want that property in that location, right? For whatever reason, and that's okay, right? I'm all about income. If I'm going to have debt compared to my property income, I want to have a lot of income left over after that debt, right? Your equity ratio, how much equity, right? Based on your cash flow, right? So your cash flow divided by your equity, right? What's that percentage? Vacancy ratio, right? So this is actually, yeah, so this is split vacancy, but it's flipped around. But you're going to get a similar number, just, inverted. Operating expenses divided by effective gross income. And then loan to value, which anybody that's dealt with a mortgage, you're gonna understand that. All right, so the part where I am not an accountant, right? So what expenses, what numbers can we use when we're filling out or when we're working with our accountant to figure out what our taxable income should be? Next slide, please. So your accountant is obviously, you're going to talk to your accountant about this. There may be something missing from here. This could be old, bad information. Their tax law could have changed. I don't know how long this video is going to be out there. So, don't take this as gospel. Talk to your accountant about this. But from my knowledge, as a real estate broker, not an accountant, you're going to take your net operating income plus your reserves, because yes, your reserves are still income. Even though you're not spending your reserves, it's still income. It's sitting in your bank account. It didn't go out as an expense, right? Minus your depreciation, whatever that is. Talk to your accountant. They do a lot of different things with depreciation. Where they speed it up, or they, I don't know, whatever. Talk to your accountant about that, right? Hey, is there anything, any tricks that we can do with depreciation? Minus your interest, your amortization, that's your taxable income. That should be the amount of income that you're going to have that is going to be taxable, right? So NOI is a big number. Keep in mind, because that includes your operating expenses and everything else involved in there. Your other income, that's your, potential gross income. You know, there's a lot in there, right? So NOI is not just you can break it down into that number, but your accountant is probably going to take the formula that leads you to the NOI. What about an appraiser and how they value the property, right? What does an appraiser look at when they value a property? Well, they look at a reconstructed operating statement. It's prepared by an appraiser, and this is how they can project future performance based on what's happened. So what are the numbers that we're looking at, right, when we're talking about a reconstructed operating statement, right? Obviously, vacancy and collection, the loss, right? And where, what is the vacancy and collection loss? Reserves and replacement and management fees, right? We're going to count those in there. What would they not count in a statement? Depreciation, not going to be in there. Your personal expenses, don't put any personal expenses in there. Your federal income taxes and your debt income, right? This is the next slide, by the way. All right, so those are the formulas, those are the ratios, those are the numbers that you need to know. And, some of the ratios, you're going to have to figure out where it's appropriate for you to use these ratios or not. Not always necessary, right? The stack and IRV are the two tools taught here if you're going to work in investment real estate that you're going to want to know at a very high level. Those are going to be the numbers that you're going to work with for the most part. But also understand the ratios and how they relate to the property and how they relate to income and the expenses. If you want to learn more, let me know. You can reach out to me. I'll be happy to have a conversation, especially for our MX agents. If you're working with an investor and it's the first time for you, or if these terms are new to you, if you're investing in your own property, whatever it is, you guys can always reach us. Don't stay stuck, right? You know how to pop in the lobby room. You can get the admin team there. Most of you should have my cell phone. You can reach out to me. You're going to call me. It's fine, right? Don't wait until it's too late. Hey, I'm working with an investor. How do I start? Let's get that figured out, right? Let's talk about it. All right, so a little bit of bonus material here. This is not necessarily numbers and how they relate to analyzing an investment property, but it does have to do with your management or investing success. This is the system that we use on my team when we're analyzing a tenant. This is the system that I use in my real estate or in my property management office when we're analyzing a tenant, right? Keep in mind all of the fair housing laws, right? You cannot discriminate based on any of those factors, and if you do, then you're going to get hit with an ethics violation. What we're looking at is facts. We're looking at numbers, right? We don't care what class of person this individual is in. Everybody gets treated the same, right? So so it starts with collecting documents. If you're out as a real estate agent and you're driving a renter around and you haven't collected all of these documents up front, then you don't even know who you have in the car with you. You don't know if they have the means or even the wherewithal to figure out or be able to get into the rental properties that they told you they want to see, right? You want an active driver's license. Number one, you should know who you're going to go meet because you're going to be in vacant properties, potentially alone with this individual. Collect an active driver's license. Make sure that they have a driver's license, because to get into any place they're going to need, or state ID, right? 30 days of paycheck stubs. Why? Because you want to verify that they actually have the income to move into this place. A lot of places will say that they need at least 2 times the monthly rent for income. Some will say 3 times. The ideal would be 4 times, right? But you need to know, how much money does this person make per month? I want to see, I want to go see, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments for $2,000 a month, but I only make $2,300 a month. Okay, well, how's that going to work? Oh, I have a wife as well. Oh, okay, well, we should probably be collecting her stuff as well, right? Proof of funds to move in. Why? First, last, and security deposit. You might want to look at a $2,000 a month apartment for rent. But if you don't, but if we know that this apartment over here, this condo over here requires 3 months, and that's a non-negotiable for them, no matter how good your credit is or how much income you have, we're not going to show that to them because maybe you only have 2 months to move in. First month in security deposit. Should you call the agent before you show that property and just say, hey, I have a renter, great profile, I screened them, everything's done, but they only have 2 months to move in. It's a young couple, right? Should you sell them? Yes, probably, right? They're just getting started, first place, whatever, probably, right? I mean, but make sure that they have the money to actually move in. If you put a dreamer in your car, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So make sure that you confirm, do you have the money to move in, right? Screenshot of their bank account is enough for you or enough for me. You tell me what you want. Don't share account numbers, right? You're going to want to get a credit report with the score. So here's what I do. And people struggle with this. I don't know why. But if you use Credit Karma, like I do, you go on there and you can monitor your credit score. You can look at all your stuff. I think Credit Karma is a great app. There's a part on there where you can click, see my full report, and you can get your credit report. Why do I require a Credit Karma report up front? Because it doesn't cost that individual any money to give me a Credit Karma report. I do not want to have them pay for a screening, right? I send them to Rent Spree or I don't know, whatever other rental screening apps there are. There's a million of them, Equifax, TransUnion. I don't want them to pay for a credit report up front when likely when we find the property, the owner, the property manager, the other agent, whoever it is on the other side, it's going to require them to be fully screened and have to pay again, right? Even when we have the property for rent, when we send this list to the agent to collect all of this, I tell them while we're pre-screening them, because we are pre-screening them before we do a full screening, because I don't even want somebody else's customer. I don't want them to pay for a credit background check there, and then we end up saying, oh no, your credit score is too low, you have too many collections, you have whatever, right? And you need to have a minimum credit score. And you need to have it the same for everybody. Because everybody needs to be treated the same. Everybody needs to be treated equally. Even if you're not intending to discriminate, if you take one class of people and you tell them, if they say, what's the minimum credit score? 650. And then you take another class of people, what's the minimum credit score? 620. And that 620 knows that you told somebody 650? Well, you just treated two different classes of people differently, didn't you? That's discrimination, whether you meant for it to be or not. So have your credit score minimum up front and know what it is and give it to everybody and treat everybody exactly the same. Collect all of the same documents from every single person. And this will protect you from a lawsuit down the road. And if it's a listing in my brokerage, it's going to protect me from a lawsuit. So make sure you're treating everybody exactly the same when you're collecting this information. I don't charge up front. Give me the Credit Karma report. That's all I need. I can look at that and I can know, okay, this person is good to move to the next level. Send it to the owner. If we're the agent, we should not be making the decision for the owner. We send everything to the owner and the owner makes the decision, right? We're advising, we're giving opinions, we're answering any questions. We don't make the final decision. Sometimes I don't send them the driver's license because I know who that owner is, right? And they'll ask me certain questions about protected classes, and I'm not going to put somebody through that. Charlene, you had a question? No? Okay. All right, moving forward. Oh, go ahead.
Charlene, try to check your mic, perhaps.
All right, she can figure that out. Let's get to the end of this. If you can mute that. All right, so next slide. Oh yeah, rental application. Okay. We need another document that we're collecting is a rental application, right? Because on the rental application, we're going to get information that, again, these are areas where we're going to take their word. But we want to find out, do they have a criminal history? Right? And what is that? We want to also find out, have you been evicted? Why? Because at the end of this, we will do a full credit background eviction check, but I'm not going to charge them for that up front before I know that we can actually approve them for it. And it's all here. If you're an MX agent, it's in your Trello board, right? Our entire system and our entire process for how we do this is in our Trello board, including the application that we use. What else don't we do on the application, or what else do we do on the application? We don't collect Social Security numbers. If you've been a real estate agent long enough and you've listed rental properties, you've probably received an offer with all of this information: their name, their address, their birthday, their driver's license, their Social Security number. What can I do with all that information? I could probably steal an identity, or I could sell that identity to somebody else. I don't know the people that buy those. Maybe somebody here does. You shouldn't if you do. So we don't subject our customers to this potential of having their identity stolen. We also don't subject other agents' customers to the potential of having their identity stolen, because maybe it's not the agent that steals the identity, but maybe there's somebody monitoring that agent's email. And we know that happens. That's why we have two-step verification for all of our company emails, so that people can't do that to your MX Realty email. But we know that people do it because that's how people's escrows get stolen as well. They monitor it. See where it says Social Security number? I don't, but I know that it says, do not include this for now. Oh, do not fill this out for now. It's in bold print. Second box from the top left. Do not fill out for now. I don't want your customer's Social Security number. I have no need for it. Do you need a Social Security number to look at somebody's application, to review their credit, to verify their income? You don't need it. When they get through this entire process, I don't take their Social Security number to do their credit and background check. The only time we need it is after they've been approved and they've gone through the process. Right? That's the only time it's required. We don't need it now. We don't give it now. If you send this out, if you have a renter and you fill out this application, you send all this information, and you made 9 offers on 9 different properties and sent their Social Security number with all of this to 9 different agents, you did not do your customer a service. You may have gotten their identity stolen. It only takes one. Do not share Social Security numbers. That's a number that they really can't get anywhere else unless somebody shares it. Right? Name, address, birthday, yeah, they can get all that. But a Social Security number, you ain't finding that nowhere online unless somebody already stole it and is selling it somewhere. I don't even know where they sell that at, but I think they do. So don't subject your customer to it, and don't subject somebody else's customer to it either. When you have the listing, let them know, here's our application. Don't give me the Social Security number. Because if it gets stolen out of your email, now maybe there's some liability that falls on you. Don't take them, don't give them. Don't even deal with Social Security numbers. Right? What else do we want to do? We want to verify employment. We want to verify their rent. and then we want to verify their score, right? You take all of this together. Now you have a complete picture of who they are, right? Should you verify that they work where they say they're going to work? Have people sent in fraudulent checks that they've edited on their editing software? Yes. And yes. You should verify their employment. Should you call their current landlord to verify that they pay their rent on time? Yes, you should. But what you should also do is call the previous landlord, because the current landlord might just be trying to get rid of them. Right? The current landlord might just say, yeah, great tenant, great person. Yeah, pay rent on time. Everything's good. Everything's great. I love them so much. They wouldn't be moving out except, I have a life change. Oh, wow. This person's a rock star. Right? This is an amazing person. I'm going to move in. They move in and you find out they really are a rock star, and they have parties in your place every weekend. And they trash it, and all the neighbors complain, and the police get called. Right? Don't rent to those rock stars. Make sure you're verifying these things. Call the previous landlord. Go two back. Right? How long have you lived there? How was he? Because that previous landlord has no skin in the game. They don't care. Right? But should you verify that? I think yes. You should be verifying all of this. If you trust them, right? I trust what you're telling me, but now I'm going to verify everything. Right? And last, background check. Okay, so by the time we get to the background check, we've already pre-screened them. Right? So this is our final verification, because they sent us their credit report with their credit score through Credit Karma or whatever equivalent there is out there. Didn't cost them a penny. Right? We trust that that was true. They filled out the application and told us about their criminal background, whether there is one or not. We trust what they told us. And they also filled out on the application about their evictions in the past, whether they had them or not. And we also trusted what they told us. And we looked at everything. We looked at their income. Right? We checked their IDs to make sure that they are real people. We've reviewed everything they've already given to us, and they look great. We love them. Wow. This is the dream person, right? Well, now we're going to verify just one more step. We're going to verify the credit, criminal, and eviction, and we're going to have them pay to do that check on themselves, right? Maybe that's part of your application fee. Doesn't matter what it is. What do? I don't say, okay, now give me all of your information and I'm going to enter it and it'll go to you. I send them a link. Click this link, fill out everything, right? And the link, you can either pay it for them or they can pay it. If you're collecting an application fee, then you should pay it as part of that application fee. Collect the application fee up front so that you're covered, right? So that if something does come up, well, you said you didn't have, this going on in your life, and now that I'm looking at this, I see this, right? We're going to have to disqualify you based on this. Now, again, these rules need to go universally to everybody, right? One of our things is no violent crimes. We have zero tolerance for violent crimes. So if I see violent crimes, we're not dealing with them. If you see repeated violent crimes, there might be a pattern. Do you really want that person in your building? Right? It's up to you. You choose your standards, right? But I wouldn't want them. Lisa?
Well, so I wanted to bring something up. So in my condominium association, when I was on the board, we decided as a board to set a credit minimum of 650, and then we got pushback from one of the owners who was an attorney and threatened to sue us over it because she couldn't get someone with decent credit into her unit. And so we reached out to our association attorney, and he said that we had no right to set a credit limit. We had to, get a 2/3 majority vote of the owners. And so then I responded, well, if we're not allowed, because he went into a lot of other things, but, and I said, so based on what you're saying, we may not even be able to impose anything for a criminal history. And he made the comment that it would be the form of discrimination either way. So, I mean, how, I can't understand that. I mean, so now criminals have rights, like, we have to accept them.
Are there any newly licensed people in here that have just taken their license? Is a criminal a protected class? Because I've never heard that.
Yeah, no, they're not. And somebody with bad credit's not a protected class either, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never heard that. And once they do become, one thing that is a protected class, Section 8 is a protected
Yes.
class.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't put in your advertisements no Section 8. You can't look, you have, now here's the thing. You can screen a Section 8 tenant the same way that you screen everybody else. And they might not make it through. But if they are the shining star out of all of your applications, then they better make it through. Because if you say, well, why did my customer get rejected? They've got great credit, the income with, everything looks good, everything here, none of this, none of that, meet your minimum credit score. Why'd you reject? Oh, because they're Section 8. Boom. You just got hit, right? And you just did it to yourself. Now I got to deal with your mess. Please don't bring me that mess. Right?
Well, there's our world, a realtor luncheon on April 17th at Tower Club, which is downtown Fort Lauderdale, and it's all about the Fair Housing Act. So I'm going to attend.
Everybody should go to that. In Trello, we also have your ethics code of conduct. So, just make sure that whatever you're doing, this is again why I say, besides the protected classes, because no matter what, we're not discriminating against any protected classes, but everybody gets treated the same. And if you treat everybody the same, then you have nothing to worry about, literally, because you did not reject somebody based on their class status. You rejected somebody based on a fact, right? Well, our minimum credit score is 650. Your customer has a 580. So it has nothing to do with this class of whatever they're in, but it does have everything to do with they don't pay their bills on time, right? And their credit score reflects that. Right now, do we make exceptions? Yes. Yes, we will make an exception if somebody is doesn't quite meet our, now this is us, right? And again, you need to have your rule for your exceptions, right? But we do have things that we do for people, and we do it across the board, right? Like, let's say our minimum credit score is a 650 and they're a 620, and maybe they had one collection, not a lot of lines of credit. They look kind of mostly okay, right? Newer credit kind of situation. Well, we have what's called an offsetting factor. Has anybody ever read the code of ethics? I've read the entire thing, front to back, top to bottom. If you haven't read it, and if you haven't read it in the last 3 or 4 years, you probably should read it. We always post the new one in Trello. Go find it, because that's going to save everybody a whole lot of heartache. Thank you, Anna, for reading that. I love you so much. Because that saves a whole lot of heartache, and that makes a lot of things crystal clear. I've had other brokers threaten to file an ethics complaint against me out of ignorance, and I argue back and I say, well, that's actually not an ethics violation. And if you file that, then you might be the one that gets in trouble for filing a frivolous ethics violation against me, right? Because people get petty, right? But if you understand what's ethical and what's not ethical, then you know what you can and cannot do, right? These things apply for a reason. But we have our offsetting factors. What's an offsetting factor? Well, we don't have any other applications or anything. This is the only game in town. We really want to get this place rented. We don't love this person, but we like them enough that maybe we can work something out, right? Well, maybe they're willing to pay an extra month of rent at the end. So would you be willing, Mr. Only Game in Town renter, to pay first month, security deposit, and the last 2 months of rent prior to move-in, right? So they're not exactly perfect in what we are looking for, but they're the only game in town. right? They're our best shot at getting a renter for our customer because they must have somebody in by April 1st. Oh my God, it's March 26th. I need somebody in by April 1st. Okay, well, let's talk to this renter over here. They got some issues, but let me see if we can include an offsetting factor, right? Because what motivates people? Well, for the people on this call right now, or the people that are watching this video, right? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Money. Maybe other things, right? But money will get you out of bed. If I say, hey, if you wake up tomorrow at 4 a.m., I'm going to Zelle you $300. Just text me when you wake up. I bet everybody's going to wake up and they're going to Zelle me, right? Zoop, 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 zoop. Sent out $300. Money will motivate, unless you don't need $300. But I don't know a moment in my life where I just wouldn't wake up at 4 a.m. for $300. I don't know. Money motivates. So the reason we collect, right, number one, the reason we collect first month, last month security deposit is, number one, we have a security damage deposit, but we also have the last month of rent. So people are less likely to default, right? Now, we've already screened them. We looked at their credit. We looked at their income. We looked at everything about them. They're already they're already good. But we're going to collect that security damage deposit, and we're going to collect that last month of rent to protect ourselves, so that if they do skip out on the rent, on the lease, we at least have the last month of security deposit, right? And if they damage the property, we can compensate for that, right? We get it fixed up, whipped into shape fast enough. Maybe we don't lose any rent because we have that last month of rent already, right? Offsetting factor, maybe you have 2 months of rent. Maybe you have 4 months of rent, right? Whatever makes the owner comfortable within reason can be applied for that offsetting factor, but it's money, right? We're going to charge you in 2 months at the back end, 3 months at the back end. Some people know that their profile is so bad or they are so risky that they're willing to pay 12 months in advance. That's kind of scary for me, right? There's other things that we can get into here, but just keep in mind the number one thing is everybody gets treated the same, no matter what. And if you treat everybody the same and you have the same rules, you should create rules for yourself, rules for your owners. When you go in and you go list a rental property, here's my rules, here's my minimum credit score, here's what we're going to look at. You have, so that everybody gets treated the same, and they can say, oh, well, you're just discriminating because my customers of this, class. No, actually not, right? I actually shared everything in the MLS. It's in the broker remarks, and it says on there, right? Now, if I'm wrong or later on ethics protected classes change, right? Keep that in mind. Again, this is to the best of my knowledge right now, but criminal, credit, all of that's not a protected class that I know of. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong, but I don't think it is. I think where we get ourselves in trouble is when we don't have these rules in our life that we're going to abide by, and whether we mean it or not, we end up discriminating against somebody because we told this person this, we told this person that, and somehow maybe they knew each other, they came together and then said, wait a second, this individual must be discriminating, right? And they're looking for a lawsuit. So don't put yourself in that situation. We're going to be sharing some good news. The Stack and IRV, we've created a calculator for you on our website. You can fill in those numbers, analyze, just play around with investment properties and analyze your numbers. Play around with them, right? Get comfortable with this calculator, right? Fill in your numbers and see, right? Start figuring out certain things. Look at that, there's a 5 cap, right? So just play around on here, see what you can do. It's going to populate IRV. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, and then there will also be a printable as well for people who like pen and pencil, paper, whatever. You'll be able to print out this same thing, but maybe save that after you run it through here. But if you want something that you can give to the customer save that for them. You know, maybe give that to them, but you could also print this out.